The underground surgeon. The underground hospital was hidden beneath an abandoned church, its walls thick with secrets as the Spanish Civil War raged above. Luis, a gifted surgeon, worked tirelessly in the dim light, saving lives that the war was so intent on destroying. The stench of blood and antiseptic filled the air as he stitched wounds with precision, his hands steady despite the chaos outside. Isabel, a nurse with nerves of steel, silently prepared the next patient, her eyes sharp and focused on the task at hand. Alejandro, once a soldier, now a medical assistant, helped carry in the wounded from both sides of the conflict. Luis never asked questions about where they came from, only how to mend them, as the war had no sides in his eyes. The network of secret hospitals stretched across the countryside, each one more hidden than the last, a lifeline for those too injured to continue fighting. Carlos, a young recruit, was tasked with ensuring that the locations of these hospitals remained undiscovered by the enemy. The underground hospital was a sanctuary, a place where the wounded could find hope in the midst of despair, if only for a moment. Every day, the number of wounded grew, and every day, Luis wondered how long they could keep this secret safe from prying eyes. The sound of gunfire and explosions was a constant reminder of the world outside, where death lurked around every corner. Luis knew that one mistake, one slip, could mean the end of everything they had built, but the risk was worth the lives they saved. Isabel worked with unwavering dedication, her calm presence a source of strength for the wounded who looked to her for reassurance. Alejandro's battlefield experience was invaluable, as he knew better than anyone how to treat the injuries inflicted by war. Luis often found himself questioning the morality of treating soldiers who would soon return to the battlefield. But he knew that to deny treatment would be to deny his own humanity, a line he could not cross, no matter the cost. The underground hospitals were a beacon of hope in a world that had lost its way, a testament to the power of compassion. Luis had once been a respected surgeon in Madrid, but the war had forced him into the shadows, where his skills were needed most. Isabel had left her family behind to join the underground network, driven by a desire to make a difference in a world gone mad. Alejandro had seen too much death on the battlefield, and now he was determined to save as many lives as he could, no matter the risk. Carlos, though young, had a sharp mind and a deep understanding of the importance of secrecy in their operations. The war had changed them all, shaping them into people they never thought they would become, united by a common purpose. As the war intensified, so did the challenges they faced, from dwindling supplies to the ever-present threat of discovery. Luis had learned to operate with whatever he could find, his ingenuity a key factor in the survival of so many. Isabel had become an expert in rationing supplies, ensuring that every last drop of medicine was used wisely. Alejandro's knowledge of battlefield injuries was crucial, allowing them to treat wounds that would have otherwise been fatal. Carlos had developed a network of informants, people who risked their lives to keep the underground hospitals hidden. But no matter how careful they were, the fear of discovery was always there, a dark cloud hanging over their heads. Luis knew that if they were caught, the consequences would be dire, but he could not allow fear to dictate his actions. The patients they treated were not just soldiers, but also civilians caught in the crossfire, victims of a war they had no part in. Every life they saved was a victory, a small act of defiance against the senseless violence that had consumed the country. The underground hospitals were a symbol of resistance, not against any one side, but against the very idea of war itself. Luis often wondered how much longer they could continue, how much longer they could defy the odds and remain hidden. But every time he thought of giving up, he remembered the faces of those they had saved, and he knew he could not stop. Isabel, too, found strength in the knowledge that their work was making a difference, even if it was just for a few. Alejandro had become a master of improvisation, finding new ways to treat injuries with limited resources. Carlos had grown into his role, his sharp instincts and quick thinking proving invaluable to the operation. The underground hospitals had become a lifeline for so many, a place where hope still existed, even in the darkest of times. But as the war dragged on, the risks became greater, and the chances of discovery more likely with each passing day. Luis knew that they were living on borrowed time, that eventually, their luck would run out, and they would be found. The day finally came when the enemy discovered one of the hospitals, and Luis knew that the end was near. Isabel and Alejandro helped evacuate the patients, but there was no time to save everything, no time to erase all traces. Carlos did his best to mislead the enemy, but he knew it was only a matter of time before they found the other hospitals. Luis stayed behind to tend to the last of the patients, knowing that he would not leave them to die alone. The enemy arrived, and Luis was captured, but he refused to give up the locations of the other hospitals. Isabel and Alejandro managed to escape, taking with them the knowledge of the network, determined to continue their work elsewhere. Carlos, too, escaped, but he knew that their mission had become even more dangerous, that the enemy would be relentless in their pursuit. Luis was taken to a prison camp, where he continued to help those in need, even his captors, unable to stop being a doctor. Word of his bravery spread, and Luis became a symbol of hope, a reminder that humanity could endure even in the darkest of times. Isabel and Alejandro found a new place to set up a hospital, far from the front lines, but the war had changed them all. Carlos continued his work, using the skills he had learned to help others, always looking over his shoulder. Luis knew that he might never be free again, but he also knew that his work had made a difference, that he had saved lives. The underground hospitals had been a beacon of hope in a world torn apart by war, a testament to the power of compassion. Even in captivity, Luis found ways to continue his work, helping those who had been forgotten by the world outside. Isabel and Alejandro never forgot Luis, and they continued to honor his legacy in the work they did, saving lives in his name. The war eventually ended, but the scars it left behind would never fully heal, a reminder of the cost of conflict. Luis became a legend, a symbol of resistance, not just against the war, but against the very idea that one life was worth less than another. The underground hospitals became a part of history, their story a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. And so, Luis's legacy lived on, in the lives he saved, in the people he inspired, and in the hope he brought to a world in desperate need.